Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Everything They Don't Want You to Know. I am your host, Jesse Blaze Snider, and today we are here to talk about Trump. Now, I want you guys to understand something about me, and I mean, this is pretty simple. I think it's easy to understand. I don't want to be right about anything. I do not wish to have my way forced upon anyone. I just want the freedom to explore whatever way my way may be, as long as I'm not hurting anybody. And I want that same freedom for everybody else. Because I believe when people feel like their free will is being hampered, that's when revolutions start and violence happens and all sorts of things go wrong. So I want to live in a world where we're all ultimately satisfied. And despite the illusion that is created here, dude, live and let live is very popular. I'm not popular. Very possible at all times. It's always possible to, I'll let you do you, you let me do me. That's always there for us. And from that place, it's my belief that we can heal and things can get better and we can come to understand each other better and blah, blah, blah. It's when we're going, you're wrong and I'm right, and trying to enforce our beliefs on other people. I mean, it's really crazy. Especially when it's like coming to something like the Middle East and whatnot. It's like, we're not even there, man. We're over here. Let's at least come together ourselves. There's enough places that we can. Let's have a calming influence on each other over here in America and figure out how to work together and show that it's possible to the other places in the world where things are perhaps a little bit crazier and more violent and more unstable than it is here. And instead, just like our conversation, it's just been becoming more violent and more unstable and more. So anyway. I am somebody who wants us all to win. I want us all to be free. I love everybody, and I like our differences. I love that I live in a world where there's so many different types of people. I think it's so interesting. I think it's so interesting, all the different types of people that come out of all of these different communities, and it's an incredible thing, honestly. To be an American. I love the melting pot, the idea of the melting pot. All of our cultures merging together. This idea of cultural appropriation really pisses me off. I love it. I'm a mutt. I'm like a whole bunch of different ethnicities from all the different groups of people that have been merging together since they got here. And, that's incredible. That's a really cool thing. And I don't want to see that stop. As the son of a rock star, I've seen a lot of things and gone a lot of places. And one of the things that I haven't had any direct interaction with Trump, but Trump and his family have interacted with my family quite a bit and seems to sort of interact with a lot of the people that I know quite a bit. And, there's this old saying that my father had kind of made up. And he said, if you want to know what kind of people we are, meet our kids. And it was, a nice compliment to us as the kids. But also, it was a good metric of the type of people that they were, because we were similar type of people. And my parents they've both said that Trump has never been anything but wonderful and nice and cordial and super, super great to them. But generally, every time they're brought up, really, almost as the in defense, my parents have to mention how wonderful they think his children are. And, I was taught to take that seriously. It had occurred to me at a certain point in time with Trump that his children did seem rather nice. And I have had super liberal Democrats in California ball out, Trump as an idea and his policies or whatever, and also take the time, go out of their way to mention his children are wonderful. And you can't disconnect those two things, you know? And people are really in this hyperbolic world. And if you're out there and you do a lot of watching of MSNBC, I can't imagine you are. I can't imagine at this point you are. But if you're watching a lot of liberal news, oh boy, they have lambasted this man. And I feel sort of like a superficial asshole for sort of falling prey to it. Because I don't care for Trump as a flesh suit, as a personality. He's not the type of personality that I would prefer to be. And I think a lot of people feel that way, this hair thing that you're doing here, it seems like you're like guarding a bald spot or something. Some of his mannerisms and stuff. I mean, I've sort of come to like him because he is very authentic, and that authentic thing we'll get to later. But he's in particular his home, he's got like a house. It's like fucking everything's plated in gold and stuff. I fucking hate that shit. I really I don't get him on a lot of levels. But I do on others. And the first thing that I did when he was, in the running, even though I was freshly fucking furious about how the Democrats had just steamrolled Bernie Sanders, there was a lot of energy behind him. Bernie Sanders could have won. I was really aggravated about the whole freaking thing, and I did not want Hillary Clinton to win. I've been paying attention. She is just involved in all sorts of shady stuff all the time. It's crazy. Go down the Hillary Clinton rabbit hole. I mean, there's just too much, man. Nobody has this much shit on their name. It's crazy, Hillary Clinton in particular. So, as a centrist who leaned to the right, I was very over Hillary and very annoyed that they kept pushing her on us. But I wasn't necessarily giving up on the Democratic Party or whatever, and was still kind of hoping Bernie Sanders could make a comeback or somebody good could come out of the woodwork, later Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who I love and adore and was rooting for. They're two very honest people, and I was very sort of surprised and I guess happy, though, when they joined up with Trump. Now, I've been having some technical difficulties while I've been recording the show, so I'm forgetting. I'm not sure what I've said already, what I've talked about. So if I cover anything twice, forgive me. But for me, the Trump presidency was a changing time. I started to realize, partially because of the thing about the whatever. Well, okay. First, I realized that I was very prejudiced against Republicans. There's a wonderful documentary. Not documentary. What is it? It's a docu-comedy. It's the Borat hanging out with these crazy Republicans living in the woods, and they're not so crazy. They're not really crazy at all, even though they're depicted that way on the show. All these wild conspiracies they've got going. And more than that, they're kind, they are hospitable, they are loving, caring, and empathetic to a foreigner who's down on his luck and needs a place to stay. And I think he stayed there a couple weeks. This is just one of the biggest repudiations of everything that they like to say. You know, like the idea that you're a conspiracy theorist, well, you must be getting your guns and whatever. No, most conspiracy theorists, we're intellectuals. We like information. We dig into information. We want to see if all this lines up. Does it make sense? Is what they're telling us actually the thing? I'm here to tell you it's not. Never is. And I mean, Republicans and Trump, were kind of my last one, because I realized how I'd been programmed against them. Somebody like Tucker Carlson, who maybe you've seen some interviews with him lately now that he's not on Fox News. And maybe you've said, is it strange? Am I finding myself in agreement with Tucker Carlson of all people? Well, as it turns out, Tucker seems like a pretty reasonable guy. I've heard it said that he's been replaced, which I take all those things with a grain of salt because crazier things have happened. But seeing the man talk and hearing what he's about, I'm with him. And in general, he's like so many people who may have his thoughts on things and how he wants to live and whatnot, but doesn't really seem to be about forcing that on anybody. He's just about coming to some sort of, rational state of honesty where progress can be made and good conversations can happen in good faith. And we're not exactly there at all. Boy, from clips on The Daily Show, I didn't, that was not the way I hated that man. I think now unjustly. I've gone back and watched clips on his show that were featured on The Daily Show and made fun of. And I was kind of embarrassed. I should have watched this shit myself. In the context it's being had and the context of Tucker as a person, I think, though he's somebody that really cares. But he's also a pretty libertarian type dude, which I guess is maybe the closest to my political leanings or whatever, which is just sort of live and let live. I want you to have the freedom to do what you want to do. I want you to have the freedom to do what you want to do. I've never dug very deeply into libertarianism, so forgive me if I'm missing it, and maybe I'm not a libertarian. I like I said, I don't put labels on myself and these things. I don't join groups. I don't join groups. Because once you join the groups, then you're no longer able to critique them properly. Because now you're on the team and you're compromised. So I don't join, I observe. I observe both the groups as a tool for everyone in the groups so that they may have balanced perspective. And I make all of my choices when the time comes based on the best information that I have. Now, being disillusioned by the Democratic Party, because like I said, I was a Democratic voter. I really hated Bush. I cried for Obama and was sort of appalled by Trump's rise. I was like, what? To me, it was another thing of Bush, who I found just very stupid and aggravating. But Bush is worse because Bush is a globalist Republican. There are globalists in the Republican Party, but in general, the Republican Party is the party of people without a party because we have a two-party system. So we've got the Democratic Party, which basically gives more power and money to the state, to the country, and we've got the we've got the Democratic Party that wants to give more power and control to the country itself, to the government. And then we've got the Republican Party, which is all of the individuals who would rather the government as it is not have more fucking power. And there is lots of people in that group, okay? Everybody wants to make the Republicans out to be Nazis. Very, very tiny portion. Really tiny. The amount of them in the country that identify, it's fucking tiny. It's a small fucking vocal little group, as so many of them are. But there's tons of different groups in the Republican Party. This demonization of the Republican Party in general, it's because the Republican Party is harder to control. And they can put plants in the Republican Party like the Bushes, and they have other people like probably Mitch McConnell and people like that, who are the most like visible people in the party who they own. The globalists, the people, the world money is essentially what I mean when I say globalists. The people who have interest in the financial institutions, and all the financial institutions have been doing for all time is buying up entire systems. You buy up the medical industry. That includes the colleges. That includes the people, the companies that print the books for the fucking textbooks for the colleges, and the people who write the books, the companies that write the books. So you're writing the books, and you're printing the books, and you're producing the surgical technology, and you're producing the medicine, and then you are teaching the kids with your books that you produced yourself to prescribe medicine and prescribe surgery and use machines and use the medicine that you own and have trademarked in the U.S. government. And this is just one system. All of the systems in the agriculture system, they're trademarking seeds that are resistant to their poisons that they want to pump into the ground, so that they can have better yields and poison us all the way to the bank. This is a horrible, horrid system that we're living in. It's really, really barbaric, and you have to pay so much attention and dig into so many different subjects. And if I'm useful to you on any level, it's because I just through being somebody who likes to dig into lots of subjects, but also just being a writer, and so often being guided to dig into various things based on various things that I'm writing, whether it's like biblical things. I've studied the 7 sins, sin so many times for different writing things. But I learned a lot, a lot of wisdom through the Bible, and a lot of wisdom through spiritual things that I've had to study and whatever else. And then also my interest in understanding what's really going on in my world, from a practical standpoint, has led me to, book after book after book. And, what do they all paint? And I've talked about this before. I would finish these books and I would go, oh my God, what a one in a million sort of circumstance this was. Either that or this represents a system of corruption, the likes of which I can't even begin to understand. When you put down your 1,000th book, and you have that same thought, man, what a one in a million, or this is a system of corruption, the likes of which I can't begin to understand. And once that is the board that you're pinning pins to, you recapitulate what the game board looks like. Now you're on track, unfortunately. And the system is so massive that, I haven't begun to fucking uncover it. It's insanely huge. There's just, and plenty of criminals are very good. There's shit going on underground. There's just the things that have been going on planet Earth have been going on for so long. The power players that have been they've been in power for so long. These systems have been in place for so long. I can just tell you about the various rabbit holes and pathways to wisdom. What I've been trying to teach you in all of our other episodes is the Hermetic principles and the universal laws. These are the things that will help you crack open the universe so that you can start connecting to your intuition and your psychicism and be brave and understand that you're a mind playing out stories with other minds. And fear is just an illusion. This world is not what it seems. Trump is not what he seems. Trump tried to hire my mother as his personal stylist in, late 90s, early 2000s. And to say the least, as a teenager, I was super against it. I was like, nah, fuck that guy. He strikes me as a chauvinist. I don't want you around that dude. He's going to be freaking hitting on you. I remember I was all against it. Granted, my mom later interacting with Trump or whatever, years later with Donald and whatnot, he was always respectful and cool and not, there were no actual reports of that, but my mom declined at the time. And then when Trump began to run for president, he started to use "we're not going to take it" as a thing. And this is documented. I mean, somebody could go find it. I was going to find it, but I just it's such a hassle going through like the fucking social media things, and it's so long ago now. But I wrote him an open letter basically saying that I didn't think that Trump represented the song and like all these things. And I was kind of like mad at my dad at the time that he didn't say anything. And it's funny because later my dad would kind of like bend over backwards to kind of say some stuff because the pressure that I was putting on him, just like society was putting, we were all putting pressure on him to like say Trump's bad. He got like a lot of pushback on that. And I think my father's really been kind of reacting from that place of feeling like he was going to be canceled by association if he let Trump use his song and he didn't and generally, my father will tell you, truthfully speaking, that Trump has only ever been really nice and respectful, cool, and his kids in particular have always been super cool. And I think I just want to reiterate because so many friends of mine who have like bad rap Trump to me, and they've been like, but I got to say his kids are really really nice. They're really good people. And I just find that interesting, as the other things that I'm going to say. So I go through Obama, and I'm basically devastated. He's fucking drone striking people by the second, his second term. And he basically convinced us to vote for him a second term. Like, I haven't been able to do the things yet. It's really difficult to get things done here in Washington, all gridlock and all this stuff. And halfway through his second term, I'm like, this dude's not doing anything. And like, it's more business as usual. Like, this looks just like the fucking Bush presidency. And it was all like, well, what I inherited from blah, 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 blah. And I watch Bernie get steamrolled, and now it's fucking Hillary, and I don't like Hillary. And I'm not exactly supporting Trump, but I'm voting Jill Stein, I forget actually even what I ended up doing at the time. Because I remember I was in California and it was like, it's not going to fucking matter. Like, it's like, we're going to be blue. But I was looking at independent candidates because I didn't like either. And then Trump became the president. And in his 4 years, we didn't have any wars. And I can tell you in my lifetime, that was never true. He took us out of things pretty swiftly. There was a number of things, because I pay attention, that he did that really flew in the face of so much of the information that I heard, that I would always hear about him, about how like racist he was and all these things. Like he did this, school, I forget what it's called. Oh, I'm blanking out on the name. But it was like this initiative that the black community apparently really wanted, where they would be able to choose schools, school first or something like that. I don't remember what it was called now. But it was a pretty big initiative that I remember was a big deal during Obama's administration, that he hadn't passed it. And the black community felt like, you let us down, you're supposed to do that. And Trump came along and said, okay, well, I'll do it. And I think that really flies in the face of that thing. And then something that happened that really, really got me good. He lowered the price of insulin and on another major drug. And this was something that was really needed and necessary. And I was hoping that Obama was going to do it during his time in office. And was really, there's so many things that were kind of promised and were talked about and that were never happened with Obama. I left he left office with me kind of hating him. I just you're just like a pretty face and you sold us a bunch of bullshit and you sold out. You're a sellout. And we need some honest people. Like what good is it if he's black? I was crying, oh, it's the symbology. He's a black candidate. This is so not. Well, what good is it if he's a black guy who's sold out to the cabal of power and their secret societies and their money? It's fuck. So when Trump lowered the price of insulin, I was shocked by that. This was kind of like a 1, 2, 3 for me. No war. That's a sign of a moral president to me. All these other presidents, for me, they have not been. They are not moral people who are trying to do less damage in the world. I know you would say, oh, Jesse, but because of this and because of the... No, if you go look into all these things, you will understand that it's just fucking warmongering and the industrial complex of making money off of people's deaths. The same people who were making money off of World War II, off of both sides, off of the Nazis and the good guys, quote unquote. They were making money off of the war, off of both sides. They're still doing it today. Nothing has changed. So no war. No school first. School choice. School choice. School choice? First school choice? I don't know. I'm fucking getting it wrong. School choice. Whatever it was, this thing for the black community, which was relatively altruistic. And sure, maybe you could say, oh, a publicity stunt or whatever. Well, fucking 4 years of no war isn't a publicity stunt. And, I don't know when I started thinking about this. It was probably a few years in. I forget when it was that he did it was around the time of the insulin thing. I was impressed. I said, that's important. That's a clear and present danger. I've been waiting for somebody to do that. There's so many people who are affected by that. And Trump did it. What does that say about him? What does it say about him? That his kids are really nice people. Maybe he's a nice person. Maybe I'm a judgmental asshole. Could I have perhaps gotten this guy wrong because I looked at him with superficial eyes and saw somebody that I wouldn't prefer to be? Well, as I went down that rabbit hole, I found, I even found that I had kind of a short memory. Trump, he's got great relationships with all sorts of black people, especially athletes. He loves fights and stuff. He's always down at the arenas in Vegas and whatnot. And he's a certain type of guy, and I'm not that certain type of guy. However, he seems to be a certain type of guy of enough moral character to raise some really good children who are kind and courteous and respectful to others, no matter who they are, to recognize the folly of perpetual war, to recognize a clear and present need to lower the cost of some life-saving drugs that would save lots of people in America, and perhaps to give the black community more options in their school choice. Those were the only 3 things at the time. Those were the things. I realize now, actually, there's a lot of other things. A lot of things. And, and I'm not going to fucking sit here and go fucking policy. I'm not here to convince you to like Trump or anything. I'm just here to talk to you about my experience here and what I've seen to be the reality. The reality is they have taken a man who is superficially appalling, with this kind of seeming comb over. I don't even know if it is a comb over or just a weird choice on his part with that hairdo, and overly tanned, and everything's overly hyperbolic in that, everything's good, great. He's a fucking salesman, so like, we're going to do this building. It's going to be great. It's going to be big. It's a type of personality that succeeds in the sales world. And he's very much taken that personality into his politics without censoring himself in any way. And taken out of context, Trump is hysterical. He's a train wreck. But in context, he's somebody who has a sense of humor. He's often joking. and very clearly joking. It's like, to a certain degree, it's like you're not taking him seriously when he's saying it's going to be the best, the best, the best. You're taking him to the point of, I'm going to try to make it the best it can be, which is what anybody is saying whenever they're saying that they're doing anything. But because he's saying it in this like really, oh, look, this extreme, like, but meanwhile, the extreme language being used upon him is insane. It's Nazi. We rounded up the Nazis and murdered them. He's somebody we should murder? This is the type of language being shot across the bow at the Republicans. And again, like I said, it's a more nuanced group of people than we want to realize. And even something like the Nazis. A lot of white supremacists, they're the children of Nazis and white supremacists, whatever. And there's a lot of people in Nazi Germany or whatnot who want to say that things did not exactly go the way the globalists have said they did. There is conflicting information. There is. And, dude, super liberal, though a centrist, one of the hardest pills I ever had to swallow was, oh, fuck, perhaps Hitler was, I don't know, not quite the pure evil that I believed him to be. Perhaps there is nuance to this whole story. Perhaps there's nuance to every story and every villain who's ever been made in history. And guess what? There is, man. There is. And Donald Trump's another one of them. He really, actually, if you go in and look at his track record, he has consistently done really positive things for the black community throughout his life. And I do think it may be indeed motivated by his love of sports and him seeing, just how many incredible fucking athletes are black. And going, like there's so many kids who could be, so many champions, if they just, had the ability to be comfortable in their homes and, not have to go work a job for their mom or whatever. Like, and I want to see, I want to see all these champions, I want to see these great athletes play. And, and somebody could say, oh, that's this whole thing, and so much of what he like. Yeah, maybe, but that's not evil. And there's plenty of fabulous byproducts of that. And I mean, that's the worst fucking interpretation you can put on it. What else you got? Is there anything else? And I would say there's a decent chance, from what I can tell, that a part of it also is that he recognizes that that is a good thing to do. And yeah, and it will benefit other people as well as just these athletes. And I love sports, and I know, like the black community, like, oh my God, if all these athletes coming out of there right now, these white kids, they're being fucking helped. Like, holy shit, like I bet there's going to be the next Muhammad Ali's in this thing. I think he's, definitely, I think that probably was a thought that went through his mind. But I also do now think that it was also like, that would be a nice thing to do. I think, and I've always thought this, and I've always said this about Trump as people started to get really crazy about him. I said, look, I'm convinced of one thing about Trump only, really, and that is that he would like to be remembered fondly by history. He doesn't want to go down in history as Hitler. I don't believe that. I don't believe he's somebody who wants any of that sort of behavior on his name. I think that he wants his children to inherit a clean name, a reputation that is good. He's a businessman working in the business world. So I never believed any of this silly nonsense. He's Hitler. He's going to fucking round up. It's fucking nuts. It's nuts, man. We're talking about immigrants and illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants from Mexico get a bit of a pass because of the bullshit that we do in Mexico. Destabilizing their country all the time. It's like the CIA is constantly destabilizing Mexico. It's terrible. So many of the problems that are in the world that we're trying to create solutions for, there would not be a solution if we would just stop our meddling in the fucking world. There's so much meddling going on that is causing all of the problems that we're having. So this, deportation. I mean, we're getting millions and millions of these people, and it it has definitely been shown to be true that there's some shady shit going on, and some of the people that are turning up over here are, kind of wanted criminals type, people, and certainly we should be aggressively deporting anybody who's getting locked up. Like, that shouldn't even be a fucking question. You moved here from your other country and like you start committing crime, get them the fuck out of here. They didn't have any morals in their own country with their own countrymen. You think they're gonna freaking care about? Like, that's a problem. People coming to another country and feeling like disconnected from the people, and just like that they can hurt them and rob them and rape them. And there's some really bad. It's not being reported enough. But if the news online, if you pay attention, and there's just, don't give me any of this bullshit. Like, people, like, I'm telling you, man, a smart person, you pay attention, you figure out who to trust. There's plenty of people, and there's plenty of different sources. And I just, a very wide range of sources. And there has been some not good stuff going on. The idea of just wide open borders is really kind of crazy, because the espionage and whatnot that can go on in these things it's just, anybody can come in. It's easy to come in. It's easy to, Russia, whoever, like, anybody could send platoons of people into this country right now. There could be thousands of people. It could be happening right now. I mean, we're talking about how fucking open our borders are. If I was other countries and I wanted to freaking get some people stationed here just in case, be a good idea, be a good time to do it, right? Really easy to get in there. It's crazy. And the fact that they've made us liberals think like this is a reasonable measure, like, no. We didn't want to see children of nationalized Mexicans, Mexican Americans, because they were born here. The parents, their parents, be deported, when they've been working here and whatnot for a long time, and, paying taxes or whatever. Granted, a lot of them aren't paying taxes, but like, there should be past the citizenship for those people, and like, the reasonable measures taken in all things. I think that's all anybody should want and ask for. This, what is happening right now, is insane. It's not good, and it's very much, I believe, a huge ploy of the Democratic Party, which is like purely globalist. I mean, the last vestiges of the Democratic Party that were people that I trusted, like Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., they left. They all left because they couldn't get anything done, because it's just all towing the company line and hyper cultural, social justice politics that are really divisive. I've talked about before that I'm not a traditional guy, or I don't consider myself one. I'm, you might call me non-binary, even though I don't like those fucking terms, really. And as a member of the community, and I very much have always felt like a member of the community, and am a member of the community, I say to you that this tactic that we've been pulling, it's the worst. It's very bad. It's, like reverse hazing. It's eye for an eye, and it's going to blow up in our face. Ultimately, it is already blowing up in our face. I'm really proud of the, right wing for being as fucking cool as they have been to a certain degree. Really. I mean, like, still just like not. There was a guy who did a video the other day. He's a black guy. He posted two videos. One video, he said that he either voted for Trump or was supporting Trump, and one video where he said he voted for Harris or was supporting Harris. He said on the Harris video, he said Trump supporters were very kind. He said they went, all right, agree to disagree, whatever, I'll still support your stuff, I like what you do, blah, blah, blah. He said on the Trump video, the Harris supporters were next level nasty to him. And this is what they've done. They've taken the bleeding hearts among us, and we've got a lot of passion for this world. We really care about things, and they've worked us up into a frenzy about Trump, largely taking him out of context, and getting him on a lot of charges that are like a lot of kind of trumped up, not really particularly meaningful charges that so many fucking other businesses, never get freaking, charged for. Not to say that that doesn't mean that he shouldn't or they shouldn't, um, you know, but and even like the thing with like Stormy Daniels, he like basically paid this girl off to like not disrupt his marriage, and I mean, it's bad juju and stuff, but look, man, I care about the infringement of people's free will. I care about my ability to do what I want to do when I want to do it. I care about other people's. I care about our health. I don't really care about Donald Trump's sex life and marriage. I don't really think you should either. I think all of this is a distraction. These things have always been used as a distraction, just like Monica Lewinsky was a distraction at the time. It's just all to move the conversation to anywhere but where it should be. And we need to hold these people accountable. The system rejecting Trump the way it has, for most people, now you can see most people, it is a signal that the establishment, the globalists, do not have him under control. And if they don't have him under control, perhaps there's a real possibility for change to get done. And I think now, actually, after him coming back like this and the big, landslide victory, as they've been saying, and I think that landslide's larger, I think there's really a chance that a lot of major things are going to change and get fixed in this country over the next 4 years. So don't be afraid. Don't worry. Trump is not a Nazi. The Republicans aren't really evil, and really their policies and their thinking is more what we need at the moment than the crazed social justice of the left right now. The right isn't really interested in stripping us of their rights. The right is interested in getting ourselves more independent and, more financially solvent, and for taking away the equity part of this DEI. Equality not of outcome, but equality of opportunity. Yes, that's okay. That is okay. What we need to do is fix the systems. Right now, we have a hip-hop enterprise that is in cahoots with the prison industrial complex and is glorifying criminality to create a loop of black kids turning to crime at a young age and going in and out of prison so that they can make money off of their bodies in prison. You don't think that maybe if we stopped doing that, there'd be more positive, outcomes in these black communities and people be coming out of this shit naturally? Every injustice that us liberals are trying to right, so many of them are coming because of some nonsense that we are perpetuating that is keeping it that way. In general, the gay community is not trying to fucking go hang out in bathrooms with your kids. We just want to be left alone. We come from a place where there used to be a lot of harassment. That's it. We want to end that. However, this big push on the liberal side of things, it's led to more harassment because now that side feels harassed by you. Instead of, hey, please, we'd like to be accepted, we'd like to be respected, which is a very reasonable thing. It's respect me, bitch. It's a real like thumb in the eye the way we've been going about it. And it's just really like you're baiting the normies, you're baiting the people who aren't really ready for this sort of world of more interesting ideas about love and sex and other things. And there are interesting conversations to be had about that stuff, but not everybody's ready for those conversations. And it shouldn't be forced on them. And ultimately, forcing it on them just makes them all feel like kind of yucky and like, you know. I was just having a conversation with my teenager, and she's coming up, she's getting a little older. And her boyfriend, they've been going out for a little while, and like he's like pressing, sort of for like more kind of sexiness. And she's not really there yet. She's just like not really, she doesn't really want that. And like the more he's sort of pressing it, the more it's kind of making her not like it, not want it, And that tends to be the case. The more you press up against the thing, the more resistance you create. I mean, you see with your parents as a kid, the things they told you not to do. Don't curse. Well, I'm going to curse every moment I get out of the house. I'm going to curse every fucking second. Ha ha, fuck. Shit. You can't control me, mom and dad. I'm sure you've done something like that in your life. Leaving work and going, fuck you, boss. So we're living in a mad world. And the Republican thing, I realized I was prejudiced on. And it's funny, my brother had done ayahuasca. And we've all done ayahuasca quite a bit in my family. It's a spiritual medicine, and usually people report interacting with Mother Ayahuasca. And Shane definitely has some next level like visualization experiences that he'll have. And he had a reported experience to the family where he was hanging out with some hicks, as he described them. And he said after a few minutes of talking with them, they were having like a really nice conversation and laughing and stuff. And then at a certain point, they got really racist. And he like cussed them out and was like, screw you guys, I'm getting out of here. And he leaves in this hallucination, I guess. And he like looks up to kind of turn to Mother Ayahuasca to talk to her, to call to her. And he says, Mother Ayahuasca, why you got me hanging out with these racist hicks? And Mother Ayahuasca says, you're the one who made them racist. That really struck me because it was a spiritual thing. It was sort of about like bringing out the part of their personality that is racist, or that a certain something had been created for him, and then he was meant to give rise to their personality by virtue of what he thought of them. And what he thought of them was that they were racists. So they were. And I mean, I think so many aspects of our reality is just like miscommunication. There's just always so much miscommunication. And thinking that the Republicans were all racist was a stupid thing. And I knew that they weren't all, because I knew there was a lot of businessmen too. There was the small businessmen really get fucked by Democratic policies because they tend to save the biggest guys by not, by allowing them to just keep taking that lion's share. But they make it look, they do a big show of doing these tax things that only really affect the not really big guys. The guys who are like, a millionaire is nothing compared to these fucking trillionaires and billionaires, and they'll make some sort of tax cut that fucking tanks all the millionaires and makes it impossible for them to, really compete in this world financially, with any of these other people. Because in theory, there would be people that would rise up to be able to defeat this financial oligarchy, but they're not there. There are nobody because they keep cutting those people off at the knees. I watched my ex-father-in-law, Paul Story, who's a great guy, and he was an electrician, made his own business out of nothing. And and he would always tell me, he'd be like, Jess, you got to understand, like what they're talking about doing right now. They're going to do it in this way. That's going to destroy me. That's not going to hurt these big guys over here, but that's going to really screw me. And it's going to make it so difficult for me to continue to operate and expand and do whatever. Meanwhile, these other businesses that already exist, they're going to be able to get a stronger foothold on everything. And an independent company like me that really deserves to continue to grow this is going to devastate us. And, and he would break it down, whatever I don't know, law was on the books or coming up or politician's plan was or whatever at the time. I can't remember a good example. And I would always, have to recognize, well, I understand where Paul's coming from here, seeing as what he's dealing with when these decisions are being made. And I see that even though, socially and my political standpoint is like, I'd like to see that happen. I understand why he doesn't want to see it happen. And I understand that it's really a legitimate problem for him if it does. So that's a lot of those people, right? So I'm here to tell you, the Republicans, it's just, and I'm a centrist Republican. Like, I have friends who are Republicans, so I always like, there's tons of exceptions in the Republican Party. But I just had a general idea that, like, but the rest of them, like, I know a lot of Republican friends, and there's some people who are good in the Republican Party, but the rest of them, they all suck. I'm here to tell you, it's not true. And most of the people in the Republican Party really are those backwoodsy fucking people who friggin' let Borat stay at their house for 2 weeks. They're Christian people who have come around to a better version of Christian values where they're not going around telling everybody that they're going to hell. Maybe that was something that some of their parents who went to school with me did to me, but those kids who went to school with me and did it, they've grown up and they've seen the error of their ways. They've thought twice about it, and they're not raising their kids like that. They're not being influenced in such a harsh kind of Christian sort of way. And I do think there are some hardline Christians who one day will all have to kind of intellectually battle for more free thinking in the realm of religion and whatnot. But, there's a lot of really good people. And the majority are really good people. Just like the majority of the Democrats are really good people, but we're being manipulated. And, and I'll say the CIA, is responsible for so much of this, painting Republicans a certain way, giving the news lines, to all of the news all around the country. You can see newscasters in every state giving the same news. And this is stuff, Project Mockingbird, look that up. This is, the CIA and other parts of the government basically creating a fiction of the political landscape in every way, shape, and form so that they can control what Americans think, control what we buy, what we do. And it's been very clear and present for a very long time, but it's been going on since long before it was clear and present. And I mean, bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones are products of the Tavistock Institute, which is a CIA-run thing, figuring out how to fucking control kids' minds. Elvis Presley and the others on stage gyrating their hips, sexualizing a teen audience, taking the control away from the parents who were trying to raise more Puritan-type kids in most cases, and changing the public landscape of sex and sexuality and all these things, making it more hypersexualized over time. This has been part of their plan for a long time. When you would see those crazy fucking religious people on the fucking side of the road going, they're polluting our children and they're corrupting the thing. And I would be like, nah, man, you just need like a world that's a little bit less like crazy, man. But he was right. Even though I'm right, we do need a world that's a little bit less crazy and a little less Puritan. They're doing it as a weapon. It's a weaponized thing that they're doing. They're attempting to corrupt us beyond just, they're attempting to break down families. Because, families and groups, communities, they can become voting blocks, but individuals can be influenced. Individuals, they need help. If you don't have a family to help you, it's harder to vote Republican. Like, to a certain degree, the Republican Party is the party of the independent people who can afford to not get handouts and say, let's stop getting handouts from the government. But the reality of handouts is, these black communities and whatnot, and whatever other downtrodden communities, they need these handouts because we're fucking up their community on lots of different levels. We're letting them down. And these results that we're getting are a product of the fucking ingredients we're putting in to these communities. we're screwing them up. We're doing a major disservice to them. And if we would just stop, like, just holy shit, get this freaking connection between the prison industrial complex and the music industry, disconnect that shit, start letting positive black artists come out of the woodwork, stop making all of the music all about gang violence and shooting people. Yeah, man, I think things will change pretty quickly. It's fucking insane. It's insane. So, recognizing the Republican thing, one day I went down like being brainwashed about Donald Trump rabbit hole. And like everything that I could remember that had like really upset me over the years that he had said or done that was bothersome to me, I watched a number of videos that just like quickly showed that was taken out of context, and this was expanded upon, and this was qualified or explained further, and his explanations and everything was reasonable. He wasn't saying anything unreasonable. When I started watching his speeches at length, because I realized I was getting only pieces of them, I really liked everything that he had to say. Like, everything. He's talking about the food system, how corrupt it is. He's talking about the medical system, how corrupt it is. He's talking about the political system, how corrupt it is. It is. I know we've been convinced that he's corrupt, but the whole corrupt system is going after him. If he was part of the corruption, wouldn't they not? Now, more deeply, I don't think Trump is perfect. I think that the white hats, as they tend to be called, the good part of the American military, is working with him and chosen to work with him because so many of the people have gotten behind him. Do I think he raped an underage person? And like it has anything to do with the Epstein Island stuff? I think there's a chance. If he's willing to expose the cabal and be a vessel for good to be done, I'll forgive him for those things. But also, I'm not sure. I'm not certain. I have a kind of suspicion about him that he's not a child rapist, but perhaps he has arranged, was talking to arrange with Jeffrey Epstein, a rather young person, say somebody who was like 15 or 16 or 17, which is a little bit of a different thing. People don't like to have nuance in these conversations, but there's approximately ages where women become women, but they're just very young women. And it's hard to deny that, it's not an attractive person. For me, an intellectual thing, is a very big part of me being able to find somebody attractive sexually. So, you show me, you tell me somebody's 18 or something, I'm like, thank you anyway. But as from a physical standpoint, from a visual standpoint or whatever else, certainly, any reasonable person trying to go, oh, okay, I can understand why they were tricked into thinking this person could have maybe potentially been 18 or whatever, or, was into the idea of being with this underage person because they didn't exactly look underaged. That's my hope. I don't know. And my real hope is it's nothing, but I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily put it past him. And and another hope I should say would be, my hope is that he's grown since that experience, and that's not, what he's about today. Um, I think hindsight's 2020, especially when it comes to sex. You get older, so many different things, and I could see him having a much different viewpoint of things. Um, so, and I'm not here to fucking defend Trump or whatever. I hope for the best. I hope that he can be a vessel for good. But is he a globalist who's been involved of things that I consider very nefarious? Definitely not. He's definitely not one of those people. Definitely not. There's some shady things. There's a thing or two that I worry maybe he did that make me think, oh, well, that's not the best person. But, consensual sex with an underage person, I mean, again, he's paying these people. Come on. I just, seriously, we're just going to think about this. It's one thing to be murdering people with drone strikes. I'm way more mad at Obama from all of the innocent children who are fucking dead from decisions that he made for war. And I'm so grateful to Trump for there's 4 years where that wasn't happening, and maybe it would have happened from somebody else. So, it is a more nuanced world than we live in. People want to do so many gotchas and, oh, this is the rule and that's the line, and but it is nuanced. And we need to be able to understand that, because a lot of different cultures and a lot of different people do have different ideas about these things. And, everything is about ideas, and ideas are okay. It's okay to have ideas. We don't have to kill each other because we have different ideas. It's a great test every single time we come up against an idea that we don't exactly agree with, that we don't just fucking murder each other because we don't understand. Let's continue to not do that, I say. So, here's the thing. Trump seems to be the vessel for positive change through a white hat military, a good guy military that has been fighting against this deep state for a very long time. And enough people coming out to vote for Trump that it would be too big to win was a very big part of the long gestating plan that you could have read about and still could go listen and read about for all the various videos and whatnot that have been being put out by all the people, who call themselves patriots, whatever else. I consider myself a patriot as well. Even though I'm not necessarily a Trump supporter, I am a patriot. I love America. I really love what America is supposed to be about. And I believe that that's what my countrymen are about, the people who are patriots and believe in America. And there's a lot of really cool things that America is about. Defending the underdogs and, and the innocent, and standing up for free speech and people's right to worship how they want to worship and do what they want to do and pursue happiness in the way that they'd like to do it. That is who all these patriots are. That is who the bulk of these Trump supporters are. People like me who are paying attention. The worst thing they ever did was lump conspiracy theorists into Trump supporters. That was ultimately really the thing that pulled me in and had me going, I need to look again at Trump. I need to look again at this whole situation. I think maybe I've been really kind of... Because I got, every time they were lambasting conspiracy theorists, I was feeling I'm being lambasted. They are trying to say that I'm a fucking whack job. I'm not a whack job. I'm reading, man. I'm paying attention. We're not out of our minds. You're out of your fucking minds. Go look at what we're looking at. We are just normal people reading clear and present facts that don't line up with the narratives that we're being told. And we're just perpetually told, oh, we got to watch out for misinformation. The misinformation is their mainline information. The main information they're giving to you, that is curated information. That is the information they would like you to have, or the information they think will get them ratings. And that is it. You are being manipulated in this way. There is wonderful, real, earnest people who care about things coming up in the landscape on YouTube and in various places, and it's wonderful to see. I get all my best information from people like that. Individuals going around touring and speaking, YouTubers, people writing books, not the mainstream news. If you listen to the mainstream news, not only will you be, uninformed. You will be misinformed. And that is the facts. And even, fucking Fox News. Fox News is a controlled fucking opposition. One Republican network and then all this other shit. And they paint out the Republicans to be Nazis and these crazy people. And fucking Rupert Murdoch is another one of these rich people. It's just fucking controlled opposition. They just want us always fighting. Hopefully, Trump is going to be a real change. RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, who I don't necessarily trust, but I do think is a very intelligent man. I trust Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I trust Tulsi Gabbard. I think I trust Vivek. I think I trust J.D. Vance. I like J.D. quite a bit. And I think that after all this time, and the Rogan interview was kind of the last one for me, I think I've come to see that Trump is packaged in a packaging that I would not prefer to have for myself. A package that I would be really mortified and embarrassed to wear around in public because of all of the little subtle things that I think it represents superficially to other people who might gaze upon it. But do I think he's a bad man who wants anything bad for any American, no matter what race, no matter what sex? No. I firmly believe, actually, that he does not want any of those things, even if it's only because he wants to be generally well-regarded and well-liked by people. That is his modus operandi. Treats people nice. He's a hard-nosed businessman, but he likes to be kind and courteous and cool. He wants to be well-liked and well-regarded. He tries to do the right thing, generally, from what I can tell. The things he's been accused of in so many instances is lots of guilty by associations. And there are some things, he's related to the pandemic and, some of his choices. He said some things on Rogan that really did make me trust him a little bit. He said, there were so many appointments that I had to make. I didn't really know enough to properly make the appointments. And I took the advice of people who I trusted or I thought I could trust. And in a lot of cases that I shouldn't have trusted those people. But this time around, surrounded by Vivek and J.D. Vance and Elon Musk and Tulsi and RFK Jr., those are Democratic people, or people coming from the independent scene and the Democratic scene. Like, that means that there's a good chance that real honest people in the Democratic Party might be able to get elected onto some of these things. This is just so wonderful. It's the most wonderful time in my life, honestly, to see all these things, all these possibilities come up. I'm thrilled. Don't be afraid. It's an illusion. It was an illusion that Trump was Hitler. He's not. And I think through him, even warts and all, he may, I hope that he's never has raped a child, but I don't see enough of evidence of that we shouldn't support what seems like the great good that he's being able to do right now to unify the country, to unify a lot of good people, and to get behind really cleaning up the corruption of our system. And trust me, guys, I'm as liberal as they get. This system is so fucking corrupt. And the liberal actors in the political parties of in the Democratic political party, they are not doing shit about it. I am so mad at them. Because they're the fakes. They're faking. They got into it for the right reasons, I think, and then they got bought at some point. And I hope that a lot of them believe the bullshit that they're spouting. But it has just become a party of bullshit. When Kamala Harris can't answer a fucking question, it's insane. We're living in a clown world when Donald Trump is the more reasonable pick. But he is. And I think actually now, all these years later, he's become that much more the reasonable pick. And we really, all of us, were poisoned against him. Like I said, my father, he definitely, I could, I never talked to him about this specifically, but I could tell, and he was just swarmed with phone calls and stuff. It was very much a, you careful, you're going to get canceled along with Trump. And they tried to cancel Trump, but it did not work. And just think how, like, with all that storm of people like my father, like running away, pushing away from him automatically, and then my father pushed away from him even more when it was sort of he was linked to the Proud Boys and all these things. But really, there's a lot of and my father's probably seen this stuff now too. There's he's denounced the Proud Boys multiple times, and nothing at any of his rallies or anything has ever been any. I've seen not most of them, because he does a lot of them, but I've seen like half of them. Because there was a moment where I was like, let me see. And I mean, really, the mainstream conversation about this does not line up with reality. And that is why the mainstream conversation about who was going to win this election did not line up with reality. So if you're out there and, you've had the Trump derangement syndrome, as it calls, and it really is, I had it quickly, because I was liberal enough in that way, and he was using my dad's song, and I was like, no, you're the wrong thing for this guy, And he was running Republican, and I'm not generally a Republican guy anyway. And I was hoping for Bernie Sanders to run at the time, And I did the thing that they did. I had the derangement syndrome, I could even say I fucking created it to a certain degree. I jumped into it immediately. I was like, he's not the type of guy I want using that thing. Before anybody was super, super hyped, I was fucking livid about that. And then I watched everybody else get madder and madder and madder. And then again, it was the situation of like, oh man, we're getting like so liberal, we're being like harsh on people. I don't know, maybe too many noisy voices here. I don't want the Republicans to feel like, they're not part of our country. Oh shit, the Democrats jumped the shark. This conversation has gotten poisonous. And at that point, I became more Republican than Democrat, because I was just like, oh, fuck this shit. And now I would tell you, I'm not a Democrat at all. It's a fucking party of snakes and liars. I've been observing them. I've been watching for years and years and years. It's terrible. They're all bought. And perhaps some of them, believe that they're still doing good, and like believe in like that the system is supposed to go like this, and somehow this is going to lead to progress and stuff. I do think a lot of them do. But it doesn't. And it takes, years on the planet paying attention. And most people are wrapped up in other things. I've just always been somebody who likes to pay attention. And now I've been paying attention over many years. And I'm here to tell you, the Democratic Party is like, oh my God, they'll do anything. And that's sort of the thing, like they've actually put this into the party, a little bit of an idea that I had to wrestle with when I was a kid of like, the extreme PETA things. We're going to go blow up the boats that are doing the things that we don't like. We're going to hurt and injure the people who are doing the things that we don't like in the name of the greater good. We're going to steal the election. We're going to do whatever in the name of the greater good. There is a mentality of the greater good in liberalism, and like kind of doing anything for that greater good. And, I really can't I can't pack that up, man. I can't support that. We don't do anything. We got to, and the American thing, being a patriot, means we all get to vote, and all right, we're going to try this. We're going to try that. And this heavy influence and this hyperbolic reaction, painting Trump as all these bad things. I mean, it's so crazy. It's so indicative of how little they have to say, how little they plan to do, and how little they think of you, and how little they thought of me. And it took me a minute before I got my head out of my ass. And I see more people getting their heads out of their ass. And I'm super spiritual, super, I was always very empathetic, all these things. And granted, I hadn't completely I didn't say I hated Trump, but I didn't care for him. He wasn't my sort of person. And I really didn't like another sort of guy who I thought was a little dunderheaded and yes, a little sexist by nature and maybe a little racist by nature. Not racist by nature, but like sort of racist by the way in which he was raised. But that's not real racism. That's just, they don't know any better. It's just ignorance, And Trump is outwardly, for years and years and years, very much embraced by the black community, mentioned in all sorts of rap songs. He embraces the black community. So it's just like sort of silliness. Is there because of the way he was raised, yeah. Calling people out on that when it's being perpetrated upon you in some sort of bad way is reasonable. But calling people out on that just in general as because you exist in this way, you're fundamentally right. Dude, so stupid. It's what a stupid thing. Racism would be fucking over by now if they weren't beating that drum. I think most people have no fucking interest in racism at all. Except the lowest fucking common denominator. It's just, the sign of you in your weakest point trying to lash out to somebody else to pull them down further than you. And that happens all the time. And it's just not called racism. It's just happening between white people all the time. So even, to the point where if you average it out, is the racism, or is it just so happened it was a black person that they were next to when they needed to reach to somebody to try to pull them lower than them? And that's what's happening fucking half the time. To pronounce something as racist and define it that way sort of brings rise to it and brings it into existence in certain ways and automatically paints things in various ways. Once it's been painted that way in a film, now you see a man who's white and a black man and you see a crime happen and you're like, it's a hate crime, and you're like, nah, these guys were raised together. They were brothers and they had a real impassioned argument and then he killed his brother. Oh, fuck. So it wasn't a hate crime? No, he loved that guy. He wasn't racist. He just, murdered him. So it's very interesting. It's very nuanced, and it's because of the nuance of it so easy to paint a person with a wide brush and just be like racist, blah, blah, blah. And that's what they did with Trump. And now the chickens have come home to roost. I'm really hoping that we'll be able to come together in the next 4 years and that some real change is going to come in America for the better. For my family, for the food that they're eating, that we're all eating, everything that's being farmed here, everything that's being produced here. I have hope, maybe for the first time in a long time. And I hope you have some hope too after hearing this episode of everything they don't want you to know about Trump. Please join me next Friday, when we will continue our conversation about the universal laws and the law of infinite compensation. If you're a geek like me, you can check out my Wednesday and my Saturday show, Coolest Geek Alive, where I do picks and classics, great movies and TV recommendations every weekend. And during the week, usually I either honor some great thing that I love for an hour, or we'll talk about ways in which they're really fucking things up. I did an interesting thing on Trump and the entertainment landscape and sort of a whole bunch of different things this past week. That's a good companion to this episode if you want to check it out. And then every Monday I do my show, All Your Favorite Bands Suck, which is a feature of all of my favorite bands. I think I'm about to hit episode 50. 50 great fucking bands, all different types of genres. Check it out and become a subscriber and all that stuff and comment and all these things. Thank you so much for listening to all these shows. Because of you guys, I regularly break a million, well over 1 million downloads every month, and paying my bills thanks to a podcast life. And I get to talk about things that I think are important and have a dialogue that is deep and meaningful. And if you want to continue that deep and meaningful conversation with me, feel free to email me, jesseblaze@jessesnider.com. I try to get back to everybody, and I usually do. Anyway, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for listening to the show, and I hope you'll join me again next Friday for another fucking awesome episode of Everything They Don't Want You to Know. Peace, laters.